described and properly followed up, ere the work could be stamped with full approval. A writer might have won fame throughout the civilized globe for his trappers and his realistic backwoods, and all went for nothing. If his pemmican were not properly compounded, I damned his achievement, and it was heard no more of. Harold was hardly old enough to possess a special subject of his own. He had his instincts, indeed, and at bird's nesting they almost amounted to prophecy, where we others only suspected eggs, surmised possible eggs, hinted doubtfully at eggs in the neighbourhood. Harold went straight for the right bush, bough, or hole, as if he carried a divining rod. But this faculty belonged to the class of mere gifts, and was not to be ranked with Edward's lore regarding facings, and mine as to the habits of prairie dogs, both gained by painful study, and extensive travel in those realms of gold, the army list and Ballantyne. Selina's subject, quite unaccountably, happened to be naval history. There is no laying down rules as to subjects, you just possess them, or rather they possess you, and their genesis or protoplasm is rarely to be tracked down. Selina had never so much as seen the sea. But, for that matter, neither had I ever set foot on the American continent, the byways of which I knew so intimately. And just as I, if set down without warning in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, would have been perfectly at home, so Selina, if a genie had dropped her suddenly on Portsmouth Hard, could have given points to most of its frequenters. From the days of Blake down to the death of Nelson, she never condescended further, Selina had taken spiritual part in every notable engagement of the British Navy, and even in the dark days when she had to pick up skirts and flee, chased by an ungallant De Ruyter or Van Tromp, she was yet cheerful, in the consciousness that ere long she would be gleefully hammering the fleets of the world in the glorious times to follow. When that golden period arrived, Selina was busy indeed, and, while loving best to stand where the splinters were flying the thickest, she was also a careful and critical student of seamanship and of manoeuvre. She knew the order in which the great line of battleships moved into action, the vessels they respectively engaged, the moment when each let go its anchor, and which of them had a spring on its cable. While not understanding the phrase, she carefully noted the fact. And she habitually went into an engagement on the quarter-deck of the gallant ship that reserved its fire the longest. At the time of Selina's weird seizure, I was unfortunately away from home, on a loathsome visit to an aunt, and my account is therefore feebly compounded from hearsay. It was an absence I never ceased to regret, scoring it up with a sense of injury against the aunt. There was a splendid uselessness about the whole performance that specially appealed to my artistic sense. That it should have been Selina, too, who should break out this way. Selina, who had just become a regular subscriber to the Young Ladies' Journal, and who allowed herself to be taken out to strange teas with an air of resignation palpably assumed. This was a special joy, and served to remind me that much of this dreaded convention that was creeping over us might be, after all, only veneer. Edward also was absent, getting licked into shape at school, but to him the loss was nothing. With his stern practical bent, he wouldn't have seen any sense in it, to recall one of his favourite expressions. To Harold, however, for whom the gods had always cherished a special tenderness, it was granted not only to witness, but also, priest-like, to feed the sacred fire itself. And if at the time he paid the penalty exacted by the sordid, unimaginative ones who temporarily rule the roost,